Hello and welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight. Today we are joined by Jeff from JETenterprises. Hi, Jeff.
Hello there.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we're really excited to find a bit more about you and a bit more about your business. For those of you that are joining us for the first time on the Business Spotlight, the Business Spotlight is for you to learn a little bit more about business, a bit more about Jeff and his business. And if you're thinking about getting into your own business or starting that entrepreneurship journey. So, Jeff, if you could just kick things off for us by letting our viewers know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for.
Sure. As I said, my name is Jeff Towerzey, and the company is JETenterprises. And basically, we are an MSP, okay, which most people have no idea what that is. It's a managed service provider. We look after other people's networks and other people's security. Okay, so that's what we specialize in. Our tagline, as you can see, is more broader, and that's so that people understand it's IT services. We don't have one set. We've been doing this, well, I've been doing it for 20 years. It's an interesting story how I got into all this, but 20 years, this guy's JETenterprises. I did have a previous company which had a major setback. Someone nicked all of our equipment. But this time, none of that's happened. We've been going quite strong and represented quite a lot of larger companies as well as smaller companies.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. And I think, the fact that you've been running for 20 years, Jeff, is credit to you, really. I mean, a lot of businesses don't make it that far. So you're obviously doing something right. On that note, I mean, what would you say in your industry? There's obviously quite a lot of businesses there. But what is it that you do differently that makes you stand out from your competitors?
We like to think it's a phrase that we coined, which is holistic MSP. Okay, generally speaking, people that want to just do managing networks, they're really interested in sending you licenses because it's money for nothing. They don't have to put any effort into it. And security that just runs in the background and monitors and a few alerts. We take the overall approach. We look at the whole of the company. We don't have one product for one size fits all. We have different systems for different approaches for different clients' needs. Okay, so we're very much client focused onto what would give them the best security for the budget they wish to spend, having obviously educated them into where all the pitfalls are that they're already falling into, so that we can come up with a clear program of education so they understand what we're doing and why it needs to be done, and a way to be able to monitor what we're doing so you can see it, so it's completely transparent. And that's why we take, as I said, the holistic MSP. We're interested not just in the smaller bits and pieces or just the licenses or just the firewalls. We actually have the ability to control the whole lot for you. Absolutely everything. So for a smaller business, we represent a good investment in as much as they don't have to learn about IT. And for the larger companies, we tend to be the extra part that's actually keeping them going because we can run 24 hours for them. So we get added on or we get outsourced as their complete IT, as it has happened quite a lot of times. So that's kind of what we do.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Yeah, no, thanks for that. Sorry, you was going to say.
Yeah, how we do it is probably the more the mystery side to it, because as I said, with multiple platforms to suit different people, it's not basically one pane of glass where most of us always talk about the one pane of glass and we can see everything and there's just one site for monitoring. We actually end up with about 3 or 4 that we have to look at and to go through. So that's the disadvantage of doing it the way we do it.
Wow, no, that's a brilliant share. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, I can certainly see why you guys make the difference there. So you mentioned the business has been running for 20 years now, Jeff. So would you be able to just run us through like what I like to call a whistle-stop tour of how the business, the inception of the business and some of the challenges that you've had along the way, and just bring us up to where you are now with things?
Sure. For us, well, for me specifically, the challenge was actually before I started the business. Back in 2000, I got extremely ill. I got great fatigue, basically brought on by overwork and over stress within the environment I was in. Okay, so it just took a little while to realize that although you think you're better, tend to be in interviews, people ask the question, "Oh, are you okay now?" And the answer to that generally in those days was, "Well, I'm okay at the moment. As to how long that lasts or what happens in the future, who knows?" Okay, which means you don't often get very many appointments by interview process. So I suddenly realized that obviously the only way forward is to run my own company again, which I had done in the past. In the past, we were an electronics company because that's my background is R&D for British Telecom. But this time round, I got more interested in computing and computer security and all the things that go around that and networks. So that's what we started doing. Obviously, smaller companies to start off with. We got a major break because one of my friends actually owned a fairly large fit-out company in construction, to which they had their person for IT was leaving, and they just wanted a helping hand, as it was. That helping hand continued for 13 years, that relationship. We went from what they had called a server, I told them, to toy, and we need to replace it, to the final build ended up being 9, 10, 12 physical servers in a comms room we built for them, running 38 VMs and quite an impressive setup. It looked quite nice in the dark with lots of flashing lights. Unfortunately, they got bought out by a larger company, to which we then dismantled the whole lot and virtualized it. So that's like 13 years of work with just one company. It varies. What I like about this kind of work is the people you work with, because you find some interesting people and interesting sectors. People talk about marketing. We always say we have an accidental vertical. We don't have a vertical. It's the accidental vertical of construction, because I started with a construction company. People leave, join other companies, and the first thing that happens is, Jeff, IT's rubbish. You come and sort it out. And that's how we started.
Wow, that's a phenomenal journey so far then. And what do you think the future is going to hold for you? And what do you think some of the challenges you're going to face as a business owner going forward?
The biggest one is with our model, or rather my model, as I'm the CEO and I created all of this, is word of mouth is fantastic. You've got lots of friends. You spend a lot of time talking to people. But obviously, there's only so many friends you make in your lifetime as you go forward, and you start running out of friends and people that you're talking to have met that need the services. Either most of them we're already working with, or there's others that say, no, sorry, it's all in-house, or we've got our own. So our biggest challenge is, I've decided, obviously, social media and social marketing is the way forward. I know nothing about marketing. I'm not particularly good on social media. I would describe myself an expert on anti-social media. I don't really like talking or meeting people over face-to-face on cameras or things. It's just a necessity of life. So that's my personal challenge, is to obviously get over that and start doing something about it.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a great share. And thank you for being so open with us about that. It's quite a common thing that I find when I speak to business owners, Jeff, that, you've got an area of expertise, whether that be sort of IT, from a construction point of view, you mentioned that, people working on the tools, and they find themselves in control of a business and running and owning a business. But their expertise of working within the business as a technician or as a handyman, carpenter, builder, brickie, whatever it might be, are second to none. But their business leadership and management skills might not necessarily be as strong as they want them to be. So it's something that we often find with businesses as they grow and evolve. It's something that is sort of lacking or missing. And marketing comes up top as well in quite a few of them. So no, it's a great share, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners today will really gain from that. So thank you very much for sharing that. So what would you say has been one of your biggest lessons that you've learned over the last 20 years that really stands out for you and sort of like you'd like to discuss today, Jeff?
Probably my biggest lesson that I personally learned is, as I said, I came from being quite ill to obviously taking on quite a large challenge. Okay, so my biggest problem and the biggest challenge I've ever had is understanding when you're actually physically not able to do what you think you can do. Yeah, what I mean by that is, all of my life, I worked in British Telecom as an apprentice. We were in research and development. We built computer-controlled test equipment. I built, in fact, actually one of the first 151, when you used to be able to ring up and they say, yes, just testing your line. Me and 2 other guys built the first ever version of that went all around London. Okay, so I've always worked on projects. It basically means you come and go as you please, because it's the project that controls what you have to do. Okay, which means sometimes I work really long hours, sometimes days on end, other times not so. And all my younger life, like most young people do, you think you're invincible. Okay, so it's only as I started getting older and changed career path and went to another company to start sorting out all their IT, that I suddenly realized the amount of stress I got put under, that I've always said, I can handle it. It's not a problem. Stress doesn't bother me. Suddenly did. And what's more, when it's happening to you, you don't actually know it's happening to you until something drastic happens, or you happen to start getting over it and can cope with it. So probably the biggest lesson I've got, and certainly my advice to anybody, is if you start feeling under pressure, or you start feeling you're not in control, it generally means you're not. Go find somebody else, talk to them, and try to work out how you can control that in your strategy of your approach. Because if you don't, and in my case, it led to a collapse after work. And then it's a long road to get back from it. So that's probably my biggest lesson that I've learned. And it's certainly one that I think most people should be aware of, especially in this day and age. Mental health is a big issue anyway. There's a lot more awareness around it. It's like 20 odd years ago, it wasn't. You just kind of like, well, it's something else.
Yeah, that's a really powerful share, and thanks for being so open again, Jeff, because you're right. There's a lot of people in business now that realize with mental health being as fragile as it is and can be, and some of us older sort of crew that might sort of look at it and worked and did all of the things that we've done over the years, and like you've mentioned a couple of times that you just sort of worked those really long hours and sort of ignored the little niggles and things that you knew needed addressing. And I think it's right, and it's really powerful that you shared that, if people feel like they're being a bit overwhelmed or working a little bit too hard, they probably are. And there's a phrase that we say, if it feels like you're working too hard, you definitely are. And
Yeah.
to seek that help and advice, whatever that help or advice looks like or may be, is very, very, very key. So thank you for that share. That was really powerful. So what I'd like to do now, Jeff, is I'd like to go back in time if we can. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time, and we're going to go back in time where we're going to see an 18-year-old Jeff. I like that little laugh there. That was a cheeky little laugh there. But the difference is, Jeff, is you're going to be armed with the same information that you now know. And you're allowed to give yourself one piece of advice, one little golden nugget of advice to an 18-year-old Jeff. What would it be?
Well, I think that's actually quite simple. Back in those days, because I was in research and development, we've all got a higher IQ. There's a whole bunch of us gone through, and we all think we know absolutely everything because we read everything, every journal, every bit of scientific press, every electronic bit of press, and you think you know everything. The answer to myself at 18 years old is you didn't know everything. Start from that fact that you didn't know everything, and you're not going to know everything. It's not possible. Then I think my early 18 onwards to about 29, maybe 30, might have gone a lot easier and a lot less arguments with people.
Yeah, no, that's really key. I think it's so true, though. I mean, I think most people, when I get the answer to that, most of us, when we was younger, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, may have had a bit of a swagger to our step when we was strutting about, thinking that we were the bee's knees and knew everything there was to know, right? But now we're a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth, and maybe in reflection can realise that we didn't know everything that we thought we did back then. So another great share. Thanks for that, Jeff. That's really good. So you've had some sort of roller coasters of emotions throughout that 20-year journey that you've had with the business now. So what is it that drives you? What is it that puts that passion, that fire in your belly every day, every week to do what you do?
Probably because I got my sons, obviously, to help support them and the family. But my own personal drive is, oddly enough, I actually like technology. I like all the nerdy things. And I like looking at other people's problems and solving them, especially in the, as I said, the holistic approach we take means I spot things that other people might just ignore or try to talk you out of and say that's not actually as large a concern as the larger concerns that they can see. So I get a bit of a kick out of that, I have to say. I've worked, as I said, for all sorts of sizes of companies and against a lot of obviously IT professionals, because most companies have somebody that does their IT. a lot of the smaller ones, it would just be one of the directors that happens to know how to plug keyboard in and turn it on. They're generally the easier people to talk to because they know they need the help and will listen. The other ones is the other way around, where you've got an IT team that's already in there, and what they think they're doing is the best thing that could possibly happen. And you start pointing out, actually, have you tried this? And they first said, well, what do you think of that? I said, for the simple reason, I've been doing this all my life. You've only really been doing it for half of my life. I've got a bigger experience and a wider field of knowledge. And that is what I enjoy, not so much the feeling I am knowing everything, back to my 18-year-old self. It's more of a case that I say, well, actually, the journey was worth it because I did understand that and I picked that up. It's only because I saw it somewhere else. You get to spot patterns, and I like being able to spot them where people don't normally spot them. And that's what gives me my kicks. I don't actively go looking for holes in people's security or their networks, but most people, most companies will have holes because it's just impossible not to. It's how you mitigate against them that's the part that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I like the way that you looped that back to sort of like your 18-year-old self, but the journey that you've now been on has given you that sort of knowledge and that understanding that you can now help others solve their problems. So no, that's great. Thanks a lot for that, Jeff. And just to wrap things up, I mean, are there any sort of offers that you can sort of say to our viewers today? And if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that, Jeff?
Yeah, no, we do have some offers. As I said, it's 20 years at this. In fact, July 6th, it was 20 years, to which we were offering a discount for anybody on new business that wants to pick up and use us to help sort out their network issues. We offer a 20% discount on that. And specifically this time in the security world, phishing, malware, and more specifically ransomware is running rife, to which we offer a free service to help you out to look through your setup to make sure your email is clean as it possibly can be, and also offer services where it isn't that we can put in place to help sanitize your email and protect you from some of this. I mean, there's no getting away from it. At the end of the day, everybody that actually opens an email and clicks on a link, they are the final step in company security. But certainly we can go through and analyze things to make sure, like you've got a DMARC policy, that your email is being protected so that people know that what they receive from you is genuine. And for that, as I said, we're offering a free scanning service. Just drop me a line. The easiest way to do it is to go onto our website. We've got a contact page under About Us. Just whack in there what you're interested in and just mention that you saw it on the podcast.
Fantastic. And just for our viewers that might not have access to that, Jeff, what's the best email or website for them?
Okay, the easiest one to remember is it's JETenterprises, all one word, .co.uk, and the page is under Contact Us, and on there is a telephone number if you want to phone, which I can't honestly remember off the top of my head. As I said, it's the technical things I'm interested in, not the little nitty-gritty. That's where my partner director comes into play. I'll just quickly go on my website. I will look it up. How's that? Hang on.
No, absolutely. That's brilliant. I'll let you look that up. And yeah, I really appreciate your time today, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Spotlight. And you did mention earlier that your wife, Kate, is the person that runs the operations. And I'm sure your wife would know that number off the top of her head like that.
I actually think pretty much everybody else in the company would know that number off the top of their head. It's just me that doesn't. But I have just looked it up. So the best number for us is 0800 24 25 24. That's 0800 24 25 424.
Fantastic. Well, Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, getting to know you, getting to know a bit more about your business. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Business Spotlight. And to our viewers and listeners, thank you very much. That's a wrap. Until next time, we'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.